Yeah, I think food's a good one. A lot of the giving circles, including Hell Heart Oakland, is that it's really centered around people you love to be around. And so a lot of the circles are made up of family and friends, our professional network. If you come to any of our Hell Heart Oakland Giving Circle, we actually spend a bulk of the time eating dinner, catching up. Really, it's a network space for us. Serena, you had talked about, struggling with life, exercising, family. There's a lot of young moms in the Hell Heart Oakland Giving Circle right now, so we really lean on each other as a support network as well. So we spend a bulk of the time, checking in with each other. How are we doing as a new mom? How are we doing in our professional space? And so, more than the giving, it's really a space about community building. And so I think that's why it works so well, is that we do have this space where we can lean into each other. And then for the folks that are outside of our immediate circle that also support us, we rally folks around, we work closely with the Warriors to do a Hell Heart Oakland Warriors Night. And so we really draw on folks, things that people are interested in, like, let's go to a game and then also give back. We do things with the A's as well. We organize. We usually get anywhere between 200 and 300 people who come to A's games with us. So we're building community there. We're getting some proceeds from the A's, but it's really about just networking, building space, eating together, always centered around food, and it's similar across all the other. APIP National Giving Circle as well. It's really centered around things that already exist, that folks are already getting together for dinner, for going one dinner together. So it's less about the actual finances, but it's really about getting together. And then that other part is around how do we make a larger impact.
Great, thank you. So a couple things that I'm seeing. One is, first of all, women do volunteer and give more, a higher percentage give back to their communities than men. So we have a gender issue and we could debate that all we want. But I think all of us need more donor education. So a lot of my work has been about providing more donor education so people can kind of see what's really going on. And that includes sort of understanding that philanthropy plays a particular role as a kind of intervention. But what we've seen, when I started out, there were 235,000 nonprofits in the US. There are 1.8 million now. So from 73 to 2018, that growth, 235,000 to 1.8 million, and that doesn't even include all the global ones that we now, we're still pathetic in our global giving. Before 9/11, we were giving 1% of our money internationally, and most of those were to care and to different relief projects. We're now giving a roaring 6% or something. It's just totally ridiculous. So we're not good at redistributing our money. And I think this idea of for you all to be not only hearing today, but to pass on the donor education that you hear about. And the other thing that I'm seeing is that there's this different ways of giving. Okay, first of all, we're accountable to nobody. We almost never say, I'm going to give 10% or 3% or 2%. The churches actually ask us to tithe. Some of the churches do, very few people do, it's just 2% or less that people are giving. So what is it to have a buddy or a process where you actually say, hey, in your giving circle, we're going to give, I'm going to give 5% of what I give to the giving circle, but I'm really going to up what I give in other places, or we as a family, maybe there's going to be a couples giving circle. The deal about the giving circles is, they're social, and it's a way of learning about giving. But for my part, I decided actually that community-based philanthropy, beyond just the learning about giving and going out on site visits and doing the phenomenal work that giving circles teach us, I decided I needed to trust the institutions that were community-based. It used to be Vanguard Public Foundation. I was involved in the 70s and 80s, a great social justice foundation here in San Francisco. And it funded all up and down the state of California. And then the Women's Foundation. So what is the Women's Foundation? Donors and activists and community leaders identifying problems in the community and solving them together. And so when I make a donation, or thousands of people do every year, including Michelle and others, Susan Swan, many of you in this room, Rita, Liza, all of us, when we make a gift, we don't control where it goes. We entrust the leadership and the committee that's in charge of re-granting to look at different proposals and to put that money back in the community. And for my part, I feel like, look, I'm busy. I need to trust organizations that are doing it. So if I want to help women and girls, I make a single gift to either Estrella, which is a lesbian foundation in New York, that funds internationally, or the Ms. Foundation, which is another national foundation. I give to the California Women's Foundation, And that's all I need to do, really. And then the Global Fund for Women if I want to give internationally. And it's like it saves me time. They're giving to hundreds of organizations, each of them. So I think there are these different models, and it's really great to experience them all and to kind of see, okay, I could be giving one large gift to one of these organizations, be in a giving circle, and also still give to 5 or 6 other things, my school or my kids' school or whatever else. And so to have a giving plan, I'm not just pitching my book, it's been out here for a long time, but to have a giving plan and a legacy plan sort of grounds me when I'm doing my financial plan to think, okay, how am I going to do this donor education, kind of commit out loud? Gee, last year I gave $2,000 or $20,000 or $200,000. This year, how can I leverage that in a different way? Maybe I'm putting my time in differently, or maybe I'm really knowing that we have an election that is do or die if we don't, really get out there and win. And so it shifts from year to year. Am I doing that isolated, or am I part of a community of learning? And what I feel like today is a beautiful example of, if we had a phase 2 of this and we really got down to creating a giving plan or a leadership plan, the most important thing that you all can do is to commit yourself as philanthropic leaders. Commit yourself as leaders in philanthropy, even though you may think philanthropy is not a word to even relate to. Commit yourself to being a giver that is an activist, that is a donor activist, that's really out there promoting the field, and get educated about it. And I've had an amazing time just listening in that way and being part of all kinds of circles and honoring them all, and sometimes being the seed donor to something, to really get something going. And that's how we create a spark.
Thank you. Let me see if there's any questions or comments from you all about what you're seeing. Yeah?
Thank you, first of all, for sharing all your perspectives. And this is super helpful and really inspiring. And so with that in mind, I live in Sacramento, and I'm relatively new to Sacramento. And so, how do you start a giving circle? Say if I want to build community in a new place and get more women and women of color together to do this kind of work, what would you recommend as a first step?
And I would defer to you, frankly, because my first thought would be I would seek out the local community foundation. They may already have established giving circles there, right?
Yeah, I think that, I think it's important, to Tracy's point, and to look at sort of existing infrastructure and see how the local community is already giving, or if there are statewide entities or other regional entities that are giving. So I think one of the things that's important in terms of the way in which we're giving, and several of you spoke about this, is that it's important to trust the groups that are doing the work. And so, so I think that, so looking at existing models that, that exist, you can figure out ways to get involved with them. And then there may be, and then I think it's very simple to, to come together as a group. Start with your friends and pool your resources and then give it away. And I would say no strings attached is the best way to give money away, general operating support. Not only because it provides flexibility for the organizations, but also because the money goes a lot further. It costs a lot less money for the organization to not have to monitor, releases from restrictions. So I think those are kind of important, but I would look at sort of look at your immediate space. Who's your friend group that would be interested in, combining resources with you, and what are the existing infrastructure already in the community?
For giving circles? Because that's kind of my question, is how do you start a giving circle?
Yeah, there's some books on how to start giving circles, and I can refer you to them. But if you Google, the Women's Philanthropy Institute does have, out of the Lilly Center, does have how to start a giving circle. But for instance, just Googling right now, there's a giving circle that CASA, court-appointed, what does it stand for? Court-appointed Special Advocates has as a giving circle in Sacramento. And so if you study them, if you just begin to study them, I'm sure the Latino Community Foundation, the Giving Circles do have one in Sacramento. There's a Sacramento Latino Giving Circle. Yeah. So, sorry, Mr. We're in Google. We're going to use Google's resources, right? Hey. And there are so kind of map what's there and then visit them and interview them. But if you give me your email, I can send you, and I can send to the whole organization, a number of, their entry level, how do you start a giving circle? A woman named Sandra Shaw Hardy started a booklet that was how to start a giving circle. And then she went back and studied about 100 women's giving circles midstream on how they were doing and how they began to leverage more. So there's a complete how-to on how you do it. Now you're going to be creative in your own right. And of course there's tremendous experience here. Because white women giving is different than women of color actually choosing, and the methodology and the way that you come together. So, we just really have to learn from each other and honor the different cultures and ways that we want to do that.
I would add that there's no right way to do a giving circle. One of the things that we really learned when we were building our network is that there isn't one way to do a giving circle. And so there's some circles that give us a family unit. And so in Minnesota, there's 5 families that come together. Each family gives $1,000 and vote as a family unit. So really it's about tapping your neighbor, tapping your friend and saying, hey, like I wanna figure out how to give together, let's make an impact, and then starting there. So if it's 3 folks to start, there's your giving circle, and it doesn't have to be connected to an institution. Some of our giving circles are hosted by a foundation, and then others, they simply just write a check. So really it's about just finding those folks that are gonna give with you, and then if you want, I can connect you with a API Giving Circle in Sacramento.
Love that.
And they started because they were just interested in bringing together
I can hear you.
bringing together just APIs in Sacramento, because there wasn't like a place for APIs to come together, and so folks really just wanted to come together and give. So maybe it's your neighbor, or maybe it's a family member.
I want intersectionality in my circle.
Yeah.
So it's really important.
So I'll definitely connect you.
So study, there is Creating a Women's Giving Circle by Sandra Shaw Hardy is sold through Amazon. So Creating a Women's Giving Circle. If you just Google how to start a giving circle, there's a ton of resources. But I think the main thing is, it's fun to have a local group that you're meeting with, or a couples group, or partners group, whatever's good, or at work. And there's also, you can do both. You can have a giving circle and also give to, a local community foundation or a women's fund. And you learn different things with each one. And just remember that most of the giving circles, people are giving $50, $100, $1,500, whatever it is. The majority of them are under $5,000, and each person gives, of course, because a lot of people can afford $5,000, so most people are giving on average about $500 or $1,000. The average contribution to the Women's Foundations for years, for decades, was $250 to $300. And then we began to say, this is crazy. There are a lot of people that should give way, way more, $10,000, $20,000, $500,000. Now we are asking for $1 million gifts. And so what's good is the Women's Foundations generally have thousands of donors every year who give. And their average contribution now is probably up to $750, something like that. But there are more people that are giving 5s and 10s and 20s because we've done more outreach. But those grassroots 25s and 50s are all collectivized, and so that the grants can then be $5,000 and $10,000 and $20,000. Whereas most of the grants that the giving circles give out are under $5,000, right?
For the Latino Community Foundation, depending again on the giving circle, between $5,000 and $10,000. In 2016, we made a big exception. I think we gave $25,000 for voter registration, just because we thought it was really, really important. And then we had at that point, I think, another $25,000 within our San Francisco Giving Circle, so then we allocated that to some nonprofits. But I also wanted to mention another strategy that's also been very successful. In addition to our philanthropic dollars, our giving circles have the flexibility to also get engaged personally with the organizations that we're actually making the grants to. So I have to share with you this particular organization that we gave some money to last year. Had no idea they existed. It's called the Monarch. Have you heard about the Monarchs? It's a quote-unquote Girl Scout for Latinas that are focused on social justice projects. So they get badges for social justice projects. Okay. And when you think about it, again, I love the fact that, this is a very small nonprofit organization, primarily run with volunteers, and our $5,000 grant was a huge grant for them and allowed them to actually go from San Francisco to the East Bay. and put together a Monarchs group in the East Bay. So I think that's the beauty, I think, of another beauty, I would say, of the giving circles, in that you could mean that $5,000, huge impact for that community. And who knows, but hopefully that will inspire some other folks in the East Bay to consider, doing maybe one down in the South Bay, right? But amazing work that is being done in our local communities that, again, we would have no clue about. And the fact that we were able to support them, because Wells Fargo Foundation is not going to give them a grant, okay? Neither will Ford. But we as individuals can put together that $5,000, it makes a huge impact. And it's really valuable work that's being done out there.
I also just want to speak to one thing, which is the importance of everyone. My parents set up a giving account for me when I was 14, and my brothers and sisters as well. So when we were 14, they put $100 in. That would be, it's a lot of money now. It would be $500. But to get the practice of giving, and we were told we also had to volunteer 5 hours a week beginning at age 14. So, for those of you who have kids or grandchildren, I hear you see you nodding. It's like, okay, what if we really move this in our own families and be conveners in our own families? You're money mentors. When you convene and you sit down, or you're a role model in your circle, it really makes an impact. Well, talk up your giving. Share, kind of like take our daughters and sons to work. Share what you're giving to. Take your kids and your grandchildren to some of the nonprofits that you go to. And we need this nonprofit sector, which employs, almost 8% of the population, to actually be strengthened. When the economy tanked, everybody was so busy fixing government and fixing business that really the nonprofits were the ones who were actually rescuing, supporting, and helping people survive. And it's been a 5 to 7 year recovery since 2008. Very rough on the nonprofits. So don't have that be the last thing you do. Give up front. Make a decision at the beginning of every year. I'm going to give 5%. I'm going to give 10, or I'm going to put 10% of my hours in, and really do it, because those nonprofits nurture us and give us back. If it's a giving circle, it's one thing. I want my time free, so I'm like, oh please, 70 or 80% of my giving is now to community-based foundations that are doing the kind of work that the Women's Fund is. Because at my age, it's like, look, I want to be a mentor in some other things. And it's really important to trust the organizations that have been around that are doing such phenomenal work. So that's a choice. You want to be engaged, keep learning, but also start with your family. Get your family around, and not just like, oh, what are we grateful for at Thanksgiving? It's like, are you friggin' kidding? We've got the country falling apart. It's like, this is like, the only way to counterbalance this kind of greed, violence, and destruction is with exponential love, generosity, and care. And we need to propel our families to actually really be active in every way possible, including November 6th.
Thank you, very helpful. Take one more comment in the back from Michelle Kale.
So I've got so many things I could say about this panel. First of all, I want to say I'm a member of the Giving Circle too, down in Silicon Valley. I've been a member of that circle for 10 years, and it's been a wonderful experience. Highly recommend Giving Circles to all of you for all the reasons the ladies at the front said: the social, the thought, the community, and the making real change in your community. It's really a wonderful experience. But I also wanted just to come back to what Tracy was saying about making your plan, and that sort of 1.8 million nonprofits that there are out there. I've been working in philanthropy for about a decade now, and one of the things that I found very useful in the early days was to sit down and think about, what am I actually really interested in? What do I care about? And I went through a real exercise where I thought, what's my top priority? Is it homelessness? Is it hunger? Is it sexual exploitation? What is it? And so my baseline is women and girls. And as I've moved through this philanthropic journey, I found that having that sort of personal mission statement about what I'm interested in philanthropically has really helped me to be able to say no. And that's actually a really important piece of it too, because there are so many wonderful organizations and so many fabulous causes and so many things you want to give your money to, you kind of end up like scattershotting everywhere. So if you want to make a real difference in the world, think about what you actually want to change. Where do you want to see the needle move? If you've got $5, $500, $5 million, you can only do so much with that money. So really think about what you want to change before you get started. That's my one piece of advice. And the other thing I just want to mention is that I am matching everybody's new money gifts to the Women's Foundation until the end of the year. So if any of you would like to make a donation to the Women's Foundation of California, I'm matching everything.
Yay, Michelle,
Please
yay.
write us a check.
Well, thank you, Michelle. So I see Diane approaching, which means I think we're out of time for this session. I just want to thank Tracy, Hung, and Elisa so much for sharing. Thank you.
I do have 7 books here that are autographed. If anybody would like one, they're $20. They're normally 30. So. Oh, no picture. Yeah, let me see.